Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. My name is John.
My name is Lester.
And joining us today, we have Bryan. Bryan, want to do a self-introduction?
Oh, okay. My name is Bryan. I'm the MD at TSL. So I'm the boss that you guys never ever see. Yeah.
This is such a monumental day for John and I, by the way, because John obviously still is working in TSL. I used to work in TSL. So Bryan was the guy in charge of all of us. So it's actually quite interesting to have him on the show for once, that not as a boss, but as a guest. So, before we get into everything, just a quick announcement. My finals is coming up. Life is hard, so I won't be able to get out these videos. I was looking at my schedule. I tried, guys, but I cannot. I just physically can't unless I don't sleep. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. Hope you guys are okay with that. And I'll be coming back on 24th of November. I think it's 24th. I'm not very sure. But I think it's the Tuesday. So in the meantime, just go back and watch our other 37 episodes that I put up. And I think you guys are quite fine.
Then y'all don't watch at 2x speed. Just watch at normal speed. You'll make up for the lost time lah.
Yeah, 3 is fine, guys. And with that,
okay. Anyway, enough waffling. Okay, but before that, one other thing that Lester always forgets. Okay, please follow us on Instagram. We are on IMO.pod on Instagram.
Yes.
And since we have 3 people affiliated with TSL on today, also go and follow TSL lah. Okay. So just to give you all a little bit more of a background, so today's topic that we're going to be talking about, because Bryan is a pioneer in this, okay, we're going to be talking about the creative industry. And it's something that I feel Lester and I are deeply invested in. Yes. And yes, today we're going to be sharing about that.
We might not be fantastic at it, but at least one of us within the 3 is fantastic at it. So we'll get someone's opinion. We try, guys. We try very hard. So with that, why don't we just start with the first question, right?
Yeah, man.
So, Bryan, so in the creative industry, would you consider yourself more as like a creative, or do you consider yourself like a businessman first? Because I know when you first started TSL, you had to kind of be the writer, you had to be the photographer, you had to be everything. But then now that you can take a step back, would you rather be the businessman, or do you think you still have a creative at heart?
My money is on businessman, so I want to hear this.
Okay. Well, I love creative pursuits. I love writing. I love photography. I love doing videography and so on. But if I were to how would I self-identify? It would definitely be by a businessman.
Yeah.
And by a large margin, actually.
Especially recently, or has this always been the backstory?
I think, I do enjoy creative endeavors. For example, I love music a lot, right? But I know that, I'm not very good at music. And, the whole thing about being a starving artist, right? Well, if I was to do music and try to make living as a music, I would starve lah. Confirm starve one.
Starving.
So, yeah. Well, I know that is not for me, but I still really enjoy doing, creative pursuits in my hobbies as a hobby in my spare time.
Nice.
But yeah, I try to focus on what I'm better at, and I guess that's the business aspect.
But when you first started TSL, was it because you thought of it as a business venture, or was it you thought of it as a creative side hobby that you wanted to get into?
Well, I did not have a business plan when I started TSL. My idea was, I like writing, I like doing photography, and how about try putting this all together and making a company and trying to make it work. And I guess the idea was, I'm just going to try and create value. And then after I create value, it's quite an idealistic mindset I had last time. It was, if I just could create value, then maybe we'll get clients and advertisers. And I thought that one day maybe we'll have an office full of 5 people and I'll be very happy. And that was kind of my mindset back then.
But now
it's
you have
multiples and multiples of 5.
Yes, yeah. But so along the way, when do you start to realize, from what I see, you're a very practical person, right? You're someone who, you obviously like creative pursuits and you like art stuff, but at the same time, you're someone who's okay, can this put food on my table? Cannot, so let's just forget it. So, at what point did TSL become more of a business, and you had to think more practically than being a floaty dream in your head?
Well, I think any boss of a company, you don't get to do what you enjoy doing or want to do. You have to do what you need to do. It's sort of like a duty which I think a lot of founders would have. I really love going on media trips and traveling and stuff. But the frequency of that is about once every 3 years. So when it happens, I'm very happy.
But I mean, is it when you first? I mean, I can just imagine like the first employee that you hired probably was like the time where you went like, okay, I need to get my shit together now. Like, got someone under me now. So, do you still remember the first employee you hired in this creative industry?
Well, that would be Chris if it's the first employee.
Oh, shit.
and
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'll- yeah. Well, technically he was the second, but he was the first employee who stayed with us. Okay. And Chris, I was very relieved when Chris joined because finally there was somebody who could do like competent editing work, and it was something which I don't think I'm like super good at editing or at writing. I think my relative strength is probably entrepreneurship and maybe ideation. So I wanted to focus on my relative strength, and I was very, very happy when whenever we have like talented people who come along and can take over something.
I think it's quite interesting, right? I mean, like even as a
It is.
like, I mean, you don't get to see this sort of thing in when you're in TSL. Like, a lot of people just think of TSL as like some company that exists, but you never had to really think about like how it came
the
about.
existential questions, right? You know, I was just saying that like I think it's really interesting because from our talk with like Jian Hao, right? So I realized that this is actually a very like you mentioned, the bosses of the media companies do have to consider all these things very deeply. So especially when the groups get bigger, and you know, frivolous pursuits, which unfortunately also is part of the business model, have to take a back seat to business. You know what I mean? To business decisions, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll be talking a lot more about TSL specifically in the next episode with Bryan about entrepreneurship. So stay tuned for that one. But for this one, we'll just move on. I mean, you talked a little bit about how Chris managed to come in and like take over a huge part of like editing and everything that you feel like he's a lot better at. So in that vein, like, what do you think as like a boss who like hires, obviously? I mean, Bryan was in the interview when I was getting interviewed for an internship. So
he didn't interview me. So
he didn't interview you. I was so scared.
I think he was busy.
I was terrified. But so as a creative in the industry or like an artist, what do they have to do to survive? Like, what are some of the skills or like important traits that you look out for when you're hiring people, whether for TSL or for any other thing?
How to join TSL? Wait, hang on. Okay, if the question is like how to join TSL, like what we look out for, right? Your portfolio has to be very strong. So if your portfolio is strong enough, you will confirm get an interview. And well, you have to show us, let's say if you're applying for a role as a creative, you will have to show us a strong photography portfolio. And it will also be good if you can, you know, at least do like basic videography. And then, well, we'll try and teach you the rest.
So would you say that, let's say a general creative or an artist, right, who wishes to work in the media industry, that portfolio is everything?
I think from a company perspective, that's what like the hiring manager is going to look at. They're going to look at how you're going to contribute to the company through your portfolio. I think if you do want to go and survive in the media industry in general, it's a bit different. I feel like some people are, you know, maybe purists in the sense that, you know, they have this very signature style and they don't want to change that style. Right?
Yes.
And I do feel that, you know, for people like, for artists like that, well, I don't think there's anything wrong, but there's a lot of variance because it could be such that, you know, your style is something which works in the current trend, right? For example, Muad Osman, right? That guy who does the follow me Instagram pictures. Right. You know, it, or like I think in Singapore there's also this pastel photographer called Nu Wang, right? So it's like their style, like it kind of works, you know, because well, it just happens to work in this era, right? But there are also people who, you know, their style did not work in the era that they were doing that they were in. For example, Vincent Van Gogh, right? He died broke and unfamous, and only after he got famous, then, you know, his work became very valuable. But that was, you know, posthumous, right? And it's not his fault. It just happened to be, you know, that at that time in that era, right, his work wasn't appreciated, right? So it becomes so dependent on something external. So I think it's very important for creatives to adapt to the world that they are currently in, and well, which it may mean like changing their work slightly, like to pander more to maybe the mainstream masses. But I guess it's, you know, it's a balance that they have to find and something that they have to be comfortable with.
I think that's very important, being adaptable. Because after all, besides being an artist, you want to not starve, right? And
That'll be nice.
that's the part you have to be adaptable to fulfill.
Would be nice to not starve for
Yeah, it
once.
will be nice to not die.
But like I'll think that like for someone who is especially in art school, okay, I'm not an arts person. I didn't go to art school. John never went to art school. So for us to adapt to a more corporate style that's a bit more applicable to clients who they might like this video styles a little better. For us it's a lot easier because we were never taught a certain style of art. We can just kind of pick it up while on the job. But I'm just thinking like from the perspective of a university student who was from ADM, or let's say a poly student who studied videography or arts or film or whatever, it might be a little bit difficult, and like they might think it's like this certain style of video is a bit contrived, right? Like they might think that like, corporate style videos are so dumb, like they are so easy, they're so one track, whatever. So like personally, Bryan, do you feel like do you think that it's a big problem for people who come from art school? Because I mean, TSL hires all bunch of people, like including me. I didn't have any experience at all. So do you see like a very clear difference between these employees, like people who came from art school and people who didn't?
Yeah, actually, this is quite a good point because, recently we did an episode with Annette, and she kind of did bring this up about how working in the creative and media industry is very, very different from what she does from her education ADM. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think when you go into the working world, you would have to adapt your skill set to whatever your company is looking for. So, it's very important to choose, I guess, the correct industry. And there are trade-offs with every industry. So, for example, if you're looking to do work that you enjoy, be it design work, creative work, and you also want to make a lot of money, that is actually, and not starve, right? That's actually very possible, but there are only very specific industries you have to join.
Right.
For example, one industry would be tech. If you are like a UX designer at a tech company, you get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess it's choosing the industry to fit your objective and not hoping that the industry bends to your will.
Yeah, I mean, as a creative, like we always have this like very idealistic sense when we go in. Like, I mean, I also went through this phase. I'm quite sure John went through this phase as well, where like we'll go, oh my god, this video shouldn't have been done this way, or like this thing shouldn't have been done this way. I'll do it my own way.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not rebellious.
I was like that, guys. I'm so sorry, but like, I was like, I'll do it my own way, and then somehow people will wake up and then they will understand that my way is better. But then eventually I'm like, wait a minute, maybe not. So I think it's about like being humble, right? Like being able to understand what your client wants, being able to understand who your audience is. Because I think like a lot of arts people, they might, including myself, like they might not be very aware on like who their target audience is and what they actually look out for. So there's some things that they just some people just won't get one. Like whether you use a white shirt or not, some people just honestly don't give a shit. And there's some
this is very true. I find this is a very important point, especially for people who are very passionate about their craft, right? They are sometimes, as a result of that passion, they kind of restrict themselves in terms of what they think is considered creativity and in terms of what is considered a good piece of work. And in that case, it falls into the category of being rigid, and it becomes very problematic, especially if you're trying to, it becomes miserable in a work sense. And that's never, that's always a creative killer. So it really spirals quickly out of control. But okay, this one, I like the next question that you have prepared. So I do want to ask Bryan. So Bryan, what do you think that people are getting less receptive towards branded content now because they are more aware of its existence? Like people be like, oh, it's another ad,
I think that people don't like the fact that they are essentially the product, right? Whenever you have a non-paying service, I guess people do not like the fact that they are the product. But I think they have also kind of accepted it. That's the way, you get free service. That's the way you get free stuff. Right? Yeah. I believe that people don't hate ads, they just hate bad ads. So you look at Thai commercials, for example, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even look at sites like the Woke Salaryman. I think they do a fantastic job, educating people financially, right? And I'm not going just because it's an ad, I'm not going to hate it. No, I think they still produce great content. And I think people are also getting more skilled. Like, well, companies are getting more skilled at doing this, and well, some companies aren't. Yeah, so it is very important for the traditional companies to try and adapt and be able to create branded content. But I think as long as you're creating good content which adds value to readers, whether it is like making them laugh, for example, like a lot of the humor meme
like
pages out there,
Uptown
right?
at Farrer.
Or maybe exactly, right?
Yeah.
I thought I love that ad, by the way. I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's
very creative
amazing.
and different.
On that vein, I think like there are a lot of the reason why I put this like question in was because I think in the past people were a lot more impressed when when like articles come out and they read it and then they realize, oh wait, it's an ad. And like they never noticed that it was an ad. But nowadays people will read an article, they'll be like, oh okay, this article is cool. And then they find out that it's an ad. And then they'll be like, oh sian, it's an ad. Like that's why I feel like it's the shift in the mindset. So like, is that something that you consciously think about, or you think you still go by the philosophy that like if the article is good, no one's going to care, isn't it?
Well, I think there will be a disconnect with readers if, for example, the article promises to be this, right, in the title, and it's kind of like it becomes clickbait of some sorts. And then you actually read the article and they realize that, oh my god, like this is not what I wanted to click in on this for. I'm just being exposed to an ad. So I think that we when we run ads, and our team has made this mistake before, right? So it's always like, okay, like how can we not make this mistake again? How can we make sure that we give the readers a genuine experience? So it's something that we actively look out for, because I feel that the moment you do this, you can only do it like so many times before you start losing your readers, right? And it leads to brand erosion. So we're quite careful to like not oversell things, or like to not do anything which might be perceived as misleading.
On the topic of like overselling, I think we interviewed Sean Fu, the founder of Dear Straight People, and also a fellow TSL person in TSL Thailand right now. So I actually asked him one question about like branded content and advertising with regards to because he has a very clear message he wants to spread like the gay rights activism, etc., etc. So I mean for TSL there's no activism, at least not that much. But there's a very clear message that you want to send, which is like lifestyle content. So is it some like how do you manage to balance like them trusting you as a source of information and also allowing advertisements to come in? Because I mean that's something that I've always wondered. Like, what's that? Is there like a magic formula? Is there like something that you keep in mind, or is it just a gut feeling kind of thing?
Well, I feel that in order to have brand trust, you always have to have an organic section, an organic department in whatever content or publisher that you are in. And this content will not be influenced in any way by any advertorial content. So we have this for ebook, MS News, TSL, and it's specifically designed so that we are always going to be able to create good content for readers, independently.
Yeah. And I think this is one hallmark of like TSL's like content, because I always remember this from way back in the day also, about how we want to provide like a native voice, so that it's not just people just looking at advertisements, and people actually come to us for our content, and then we make the ads for the other things.
Yeah. I mean, you gain your brand reputation from the organics, and then based on that, people might be able to trust you more on the ads as well.
There you go.
I mean, this might be a sensitive question, but like, have you ever actually turned down ads?
Oh.
Yeah, of course. We've turned down ads where the brand value isn't aligned with ours, the brand values, and it's something that if you care about the quality of your content, it's something that you have to do, which means that you are going to be turning down money, but it is important to preserve your brand values.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, that's incredibly difficult to do, especially now during COVID, right? Like, I mean, the creative industry as a whole has been suffering because you can't travel. There's a lot of things you can't do.
And you can't lifestyle, and you can't events.
You can't anything. There's only 5 people. So like life is hard, especially if you're in the creative industry. So the next question that I actually have that actually leads up quite well to it is that do you feel like COVID have actually changed the media industry's like approach to creating content? And do you feel like their approach, will it like stay past COVID? do you think like it has completely changed, or is it just like during this time it be like that, but then after that we're going to go back to normal?
Initially, first I'll talk about the behind the scenes perspective, right?
Yeah.
So initially, when COVID first came out, there was a lot of new regulations and like safety measures, and well, what I thought would happen would be, production crew were a lot smaller. There are a lot less permissible people to be on set and so on, and
Yeah.
I thought that this would incur costs for all the film production houses and so on, and make the whole film more expensive, and then this cost would be passed down to throughout the industry, right? So that's my initial thought. I feel that IMDA and the organizations out there, they've worked like quite proactively together to try and solve this issue. So it's much better now, and they have laxed the regulation while still practicing safety distancing measures and whatnot. So from a technical perspective, I'm not as worried as much anymore. That there will be a lot of incremental costs. I don't think there will be. But in terms of the content that is created, we definitely have to adapt and now create content for a post-COVID world. So I mean, for food, that means recipes is going to be more in demand, for example.
Oh, okay. I mean, John, you're in TSL, so have you personally feel the shift when COVID came?
No, I definitely felt the shift, and I think that this COVID-19 situation, right, is such a interesting how to say, I can't find, for the lack of a better word, it's like a humanity-wide experiment on adaptability.
It's
because
true though.
get this, it's not been a year yet, right? And our world has changed so much.
It's mad.
And I think that's how quickly, that's a very clear indicator of how quickly the world has changed because of something like a pandemic. So personally, right, I don't think that, now that the world has adapted and found new ways to continue to create content, firstly, I don't think we can safely say we will revert back to, the world will not revert back to the old normal. And the second thing is, this new normal is going to be a mix of both. Because, you see, now the world knows that digital stuff is, as in video conferencing interactions, right, used to be undesirable, but people are becoming used to it now, right? And events and all that kind of things are starting to people are getting used to it. I mean, the numbers are surely still growing, but people are used to it. So it's going to be, a mix of both. So what's going to happen is, my optimistic view of the future is that there's going to be great growth in all industries in the future once the vaccine comes out, because now service can be provided in person and
online, virtually. Oh shit, that's true.
So it's like a two-pronged mixed approach. That's the optimistic view, but who knows? But therein lies the opportunity, you see. So we don't just talk about the creative and the media industry, but suddenly we discovered that the internet is the platform already. We don't need anything else.
It's true, But I mean, personally, when COVID first started, my first thought was how am I going to do IMO every week? Now that I can't film in person, I'm like, God damn it, guys! We're screwed. And then I immediately started we started researching and everything. Then we found this system that worked for us. But I also noticed that personally, I see suddenly everyone has a podcast and everyone has a live stream. Suddenly overnight. And as someone who started a podcast since the start of the year or even last year, right? Then I'm just thinking to myself, goodness, suddenly this is the new thing, and long form content is the new thing. Suddenly online live streaming is a new thing. Twitch suddenly went crazy. So I think the creative industry is going to change But I mean, once travel reopens, I'm quite sure a lot of the past content is going to reinstate back. People
it will return.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure people will still enjoy these new things that have been created out of COVID. I give you an example, okay? I feel that one industry that has been changed completely, that will never ever go back to the same, is the food delivery industry.
Oh, that's true.
Now, with the giant influx from COVID, people are gonna keep still doing that because they have now reaped and enjoyed the convenience.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing goes to trends, right? So as a creative person, you have to be able to read the trends. You have been able to understand how people think, and also, unfortunately, because we are on a platform, you also have to understand how the algorithm works, how the platform works, how the people on the platform think. And because of this whole thing, we might feel that like, oh, we are slave to our environment, right? Like we're just trying to read the trends, and sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right, but we feel like very out of control. So that's actually where my next question actually comes in. Like, do you feel like as someone who's in the creative industry, do you sometimes feel that you are a slave to the trends and algorithms? And if you don't, like, how can like a creative person like me or like anyone else watching this video do to overcome that?
I feel that we have to play the rules of whatever game that we are playing, and this game that we are playing right now is we are in a capitalist society, and therefore there is an exchange of value, and therefore you have to do something which has high perceived value if you want to move up the hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we are just slaves to the platforms, but we are also like kind of like slaves to the readers as well. Because there has to be like some, arbiter of content which decides, okay, this is content which people want to see. And right now that is like most of it is the readers, and then after that it's the platforms, right?
What kind of percentage would you say that be,
Well, I wouldn't be able to give a good estimate. I think that more so the readers, actually, more so the readers, because there is quite a lot of competition between other platforms, and they would naturally have to adapt the algorithm in a way which services the readers.
Right.
So, so like imagine, so sometimes you would create, you would have to just create content which appeals to the lowest common denominator, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, humorous content tends to do well, because humor is universal.
Yeah,
everyone can, it doesn't matter, where you are, what language you speak, you are going to understand humor.
But has there ever been any situation in the history of TSL where the algorithm has been an unfair Greek god working in the
Basically,
shadows
has
to
the algorithm
smite
messed us up?
the humans?
I think that's a very good question. It happens a lot of the time, because there are videos that we are very proud of and we spend a lot of time doing and creating, and then we realize that like it doesn't do well on and we feel very, very demoralized when that happens, and we say like what did we do? So an example of this was recently the National Day video that we filmed. Well, I thought we put quite a lot of effort to create the song and do the video, but my takeaway from that is not that hey, the algorithm, I hate you. No, my takeaway is like damn it, we probably could have done some things a lot better to appeal to the algorithm. That would be my takeaway, because I think that there's enough overlap here that you can still create content that you are very proud of within the boundaries of this is also going to do very well on social media, and it's about finding that overlap.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like comfortable? Because like from what I see, it sounds like you're like daily on sites like searching and seeing what goes viral, and then you realize that some shit has changed, and then like it like life has like turned upside down, and then some things that you think used to work now no longer works, and then you just like it's just chaos.
He has 6 screens.
Everyone
and
like
they're all monitoring different things.
correct. what a scene, guys! You haven't seen it, right? What an amazing sight.
Yeah.
But like I'm just imagining, like, do you ever feel comfortable with what you're producing, or do you always feel like the next day something is going to change and you're going to have to like change something immediately?
Well, I'm not anxious. I'm not like worried about the future, because I know when the future comes, we'll be able to adapt and change. And I like even like COVID, like as what John said earlier on, it is essentially it's sort of a way to kind of test and see who is able to adapt, right? In some ways.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to not be complacent and to just always be aware, to be looking beyond Singapore as well, to what other what content performs well in other countries, and then try to bring some of that to Singapore and so on.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't know, TSL is in Thailand right now. TSL is in
Still got a lot more. You go and search the
Malaysia.
TheSmartLocal in Instagram, right? Then a lot will pop up. Then you go and click all.
Go and click all.
Go and follow
Yeah.
all.
TSL is moving out internationally, so you guys might be seeing TSL in other countries soon. So with that, John, do you have any other closing questions for this very, very cool topic?
Wow. Okay. So I think the industry as a whole has always been very giving towards me. So I'm very, very, very grateful towards that. But at the same time, like I think I want to take this opportunity to maybe try to get some advice from Bryan, especially, right? If let's say you were to give a piece of advice to our creative freelancers, which are more or less their own thing, right? What would be something that you would tell them? Because I think this is an especially trying period for freelancers, and freelancers, essentially get shaken up the most. What's one piece of advice you would have for them?
Okay, maybe it'll be to experiment relentlessly because, you want to stand out from the crowd essentially whenever you're creating content, right? Be it as an artist or a photographer and whatnot. And it means doing new things that other people are not doing. Right? So if you're the first, for example, to come out with like a very cool pastel feed, and you find out that theme works for you, right? Then boom, you are suddenly, you're in your own, you're in a way like in your own league because you're the only one who's doing it, and you offer this new cool thing which other people cannot offer. So and you only get to that point by experimenting, and you're going to probably fail a lot first before you succeed, and that's okay. Like, know that it's okay. And if anything, you are just, you're increasing, you're upskilling yourself in some way in learning what works and what doesn't.
I mean, on that, the whole failing and and succeeding, especially as a business, we're going to cover a lot more in the next episode on entrepreneurship. So if you can look forward to that. For now, I think this is a wonderful way to end it, right? I think I learned a lot about the creative industry. And we're going to cut the cameras right now and we're going to film the second episode. So
that's so awkward.
Sorry,
thank you for watching. But thank you, Brian, for sharing
Brian,
some insight
on
the creative industry.
Yeah.
Do you have any final words you would like to say, Brian?
Yes, I do, because I don't know. I guess I don't know. This question my answers may have sounded a bit negative, so I want to try and instill some positivity here. Okay, so you mentioned that we are all like slaves to the algorithm and whatnot, and I think one thing to consider is, what is the alternative to that? If we weren't slaves to the algorithm, to the platforms and our readers, then would the alternative be the platform and the readers are slaves to us? Meaning that we just create any content, and any content we create becomes valuable, and it doesn't really make sense to me, right? Because what is valuable then would lose its meaning, right? So right now, the current world that we are in, there's like a natural invisible hand of supply and demand, which kind of corrects things according to the reader's interest and engagement level. But there's definitely a positive. If you want to be maybe like a game changer of some sorts, right? I still think that it is possible. It is just riskier and it's harder, but it's definitely possible. So, for example, you feel that Singapore is lacking a good platform where you can show documentaries of people and feature very interesting profiles, right? Then you might decide to create a platform like OGS, for example, right? And they're doing very good work, right? Same thing for like memes, right? You might want to make people's life every day just be a bit better, right? And you are the first to do it, right? And you become SGAG, right? And or comics, educate people financially. And it's a lot harder. There's a lot more risk because it's never been done before, and you are like the pioneer, and you are probably going to have to do a lot of things to course correct. But sometimes it works out well, and it is possible to maybe change the algorithm a bit, and then what happens? The algorithm becomes updated, and then the people in the future are now kind of like semi-slaves to the algorithm that you have created, because now this thing works, and then the cycle just continues.
That's true.
But something interesting to think about. But I think it is possible.
I mean, at the end of it, I think it's just just do what you like, do what you believe is giving value for the people. Try to change and adapt to what people have commented and from the views and any other constructive criticism that people give you. And then eventually, if you work hard enough, things might work out your way. And if you do it long enough and you are patient enough. So, I'm not successful by any means, but even for HTHT, I uploaded HTHT Joys in March last year, and it only started increasing in views to 100K in December. So it took 6 months of it just being there and just sitting there for no one to watch, until suddenly somehow the algorithm decided that, hey, this is now valuable, and then now it just suddenly boomed. So I think it's a lot about patience as well. I'm not saying be stubborn and just stick to whatever you are doing and not change at all, but at the same time, if you really believe in what you're doing and there are enough people believing in what you're doing, just work hard at it. And sometimes things might, and you definitely need a bit of luck as well, right? This sort of thing you never really know. So if you have all that, it might work out for you guys. Not that
correct. And I think my main takeaway will have to be that besides being creative in your product, you must be creative in your approach.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's where the true test comes, especially if your intention is to monetize your content.
Yeah.
And that being said, we have come to the end of this episode.
Yes.
So if you all have any more questions about the creative industry, you can just leave them in the comments below. Drop us a comment on Instagram and whatever, and then we'll try our best to give you the best answer. But if we don't know, we can always consult Bryan again, and then he can give us our insight, man. Because talk to the experts. We're just here to give you all the entertainment.
Can telegram him. But yes.
I'll be consulting you guys instead, actually, maybe.
No, Bryan, that's not happening anytime soon. But thank you for.
By the way,
Yes.
hey, I just want to say that, I think that what you and John are doing for your channel is fantastic. And I hope, you guys continue doing this.
Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
But
And thank you so much for coming on our show.
yes.
So it's always great to have
Happy to be here.
have familiar faces coming to us.
In fact, next week is going to have another one. Not next week, but next time we upload.
As in, next time you see this video will be another one, but we immediately filming after this lah. So
Just
Thank you
pretend
for
like
watching.
we did it another day, okay, guys? Give me a
thank you
break.
for watching, guys. We're going to even be wearing the same clothes and everything. So pretend you see us next week. So see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye. Not next week. Next time.
Bye-bye.
Whatever. Bye.